Hello, I'm Nigel Reid, and welcome to Cricket Central. With me, as usual, Josh Mclean, head coach at Toronto Cricket Club. Let's launch straight into this India-Australia series, Josh, if we may. And if your interests are entertainment, this is surely the series to watch, isn't it?
It's been unbelievable, and we recently spoke on Cricket Central, Nigel, about the death of 50-over cricket. Well, it looks as though that's been turned around. This has been a fascinating series between what are regarded at the moment as the two best ODI teams in the world, the 50-over format. Unbelievable runs, incredible run chases, and the first game was a little bit of a non-event compared to the most recent two games. Australia won the first one, but the series came alive after game two. India chasing down 360 for the loss of one wicket. Can you believe that? And if we thought that that was incredible, game three, James Faulkner hit 30 off the 48th over, and Australia chased down 304 in incredible style. So what an unbelievable series it's been so far.
But runs as well in the Middle East, where Pakistan are forced to play their home games, shall we say, in inverted commas, and they're playing the South Africans in a two-test series. There are some one-dayers as well. But somebody like Jacques Kallis, you would expect, with his experience, to be a real leader on the South African team. Certainly not so in the first test.
Well, it's been interesting to see. He's a guy that is so often one of the world's most consistent all-rounders. We've seen him fail with scores of 5 and 0 in the first test of that series. So is this the beginning of the end for the great man? I hope not. He's been a great champion, and he can't be far away from retirement, and he's one of those players that's always going to be up there with the great all-rounders of the game, the Garfield Sobers of the game. So, I mean, his record is second to none with ball and bat. Let's hope he can find that form in the second test.
Canada is heading pretty soon for the T20 World Qualifiers. They're off for some training in Sri Lanka. You've had a look at the squad. What are your thoughts?
What was fascinating about when the United Arab Emirates came to Canada was that Canada won the four-day match pretty comfortably, and Canada has a pretty good list of players that are explosive batsmen. Then they weren't able to do that in the 50 overs and indeed the 2020s. They got very badly outclassed by the UAE. Their spinners just completely took over, and Canada's batsmen really had no answer. So they need to find a way to play spin bowling. And I'll tell you what, there's going to be spinners where they're going, and they're going to be spinning wickets, so they've got to figure that out pretty quickly.
The captain, Ashish Bagai, now back leading the team, and his coach, he tells me that they're on the same page, Josh. The relationship between captain and coach has got to be critical, hasn't it?
Absolutely, and not just captain and coach, but captain and players as well. Cricket is one of those sports where the captain is very much in charge. As soon as the team goes on the field, it really doesn't matter what the coach has to say. The captain's out in the middle. He makes the decisions, and he needs to speak to his other experienced players for guidance. So Ashish Bagai, he's been there before. He's done it. I think he's a great selection as captain. He's got the experience, and most of all, he's got the respect of his teammates and the cricketing world. So I think he's a good selection.
We are at the midpoint of the group stages of the Champions League T20. It's taking place at various venues across India. It's quite clear so far that the home teams are making hay while the sun shines.
A lot of the players that are involved in these various franchises, they play all over the world in these various T20 competitions, so they should be now quite adept to changing their game to various conditions, but there's just nothing like playing at home. And we see that the Indian sides look a little more comfortable than the rest, even though, we'll talk about it in a second, the New Zealand side have played on a couple of wickets with a bit of a green tinge, and that's almost favoured them in a way.
When you've got somebody like Dhoni and you know he's on, the chances are it doesn't matter where you bowl to him or where you set your field, you may well be going over the ropes on a regular basis.
Yeah, you're right, and we speak about batting in cricket in particular being such a mental game. The great thing about MS Dhoni is it's not just his power hitting, it's his ability to sum up the situation. When do I milk once? When is it time to go big? And he just seems so good at that. There's really no bowler in world cricket that has an answer at the moment. In speaking about the real great finishers, the only two guys I can think of who were great finishers, first of all, Michael Bevan, playing for Australia, and Michael Hussey are the two guys that Australia has had. The reason MS Dhoni is on another level is because those two guys didn't have the enormous six-hitting power as Dhoni has.
Tell us a little bit about Neil Broom. Suddenly explodes with 117 of 56 balls.
He's been around for a little while. He's played some cricket for New Zealand and relatively new to that setup. Like Butler and a couple of the other players they've got, one of the McCullum brothers as well, they're not flashy players. You wouldn't describe them as amazing to watch. They're just accumulators, and when they get set, they go big. And they've been impressive so far, haven't they?
So as an Aussie, what is it about the cultural mentality that actually gives them that grit and that glue that sticks them together and really makes them a team, even if they don't have any great superstars?
It's a very similar culture to the Australian culture. They're very proud of their sporting heritage. When they don the black and white, in New Zealand's case, or in Otago's case, they don their own colours. Same with the Australian players, they bleed for their colours, they bleed for their country and their teammates. And that just gives them that extra little bit of motivation to succeed, because it's so important that they do so while representing their country.
From New Zealand to the West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago, 1-1. Sunil Narine, who I've enjoyed watching over the last 12 or 18 months as he's beginning to grow and become a world superstar, takes 4 for 9 against the Sunrisers and ends up on the losing side. How the heck does that happen?
That's the beauty of 2020 cricket, isn't it? You see these outrageous statistics, whether it be 100 off 40 balls or a guy who takes 4 or 5 wickets for almost no runs, but it doesn't necessarily mean that his team will win the game, because it's such a fast-moving game that anything can happen, and those performances don't always mean that that team will win.